Right, good afternoon, everyone. I believe that is our class for today. I think everyone's online, so I'm going to start. All right. Can everyone hear me? Can you send a thumbs up or a yes or something in the chat? So makes it yes. All right. Thank you, Christian. Okay. Let me start the live stream. All right. I should be live now. Give me a second to set everything up. Excuse me. All right. So you can join the stream as usual, but you'll see on my name on the left-hand side, there's a little button saying live, and then you can join the stream from there. All right. So let's get straight into it. Okay. So today we'll be looking at decision making. All right. So we've already looked at how to evaluate program or how to compare data types. So today we'll be using if statement. All right. So first up, the homework. Okay. So for question 1, I gave you these three examples of comparisons and the logical operators. So let's start with the first one. Can you type what you found the answers to be? Sorry, Keen, I just want to say your sister will not join, but you will. Okay, no, that's perfectly fine. That is why we record the lessons. All right, thank you for letting me know. Okay, so let's start with the homework. Okay, so the first question. What did you find the answers to be for A is true, B is false, and then the result of print not A and print not B? What did you find that to be? Right, so you can type that in the Friday classes. Who wants to give me the answer for the first one? So let's take a look here. So for the first one, A is true, B is false. What will your result be if you print not A and print not B? Does anybody want to tell me? False and then true. Yes. Thank you, Mapito, Keen, Nabil. Yes, all right, good. And for the second one, with A being false and B being false, what will your result? X is then not A and Y is not B. So what will your results be if you print A or B? Can anybody tell me what a printing A or B will be? The first one there. We have two different answers, true and false. All right, let's take a look here. Okay, so if we print A or B, so A is false and B is false. So one of them has to be true. One of them has to be true for this to print true. So A is false and B is false. So both A and B is false. So this will return false. All right. X or Y? What will the answer be there for X or Y? So X is not A and Y is not B. So what will we get there if we print X or Y? False, true. You seem a bit uncertain. All right, let's take a look at the... I'm sorry. Okay, true. Okay, so let's take a look. So when you print X, so X, what is the value of X? Is X true or is X false? So X is not A. So A is false. So X will then be true. All right? So X is true. And Y. Y is not B. So B is false. So so Y is not B. So that means X is true and Y is true. So X or Y will thus return true. Alright, the next one. Print A or X. What will this give us? A or X? Let's see. Here. It will return true. Okay. A, because A is false, yes. But X is true, so one of them are true. So then the entire statement will print true. Alright, correct. You do seem to get the OR function. And the AND, let's take a look at the AND. Okay, so with A being false and B being false. So A is false, B is false. X is once again not A, and Y is not B. So if we print A and B, what will our result be? So A being false and B being false, what will our result be? It'll be true. Wait, no, yes, there you go. It'll return false, yes. Because A is false and B is false. Both have to be true for the statement to return true. Let's take a look at the next one, A and X. So if A is false and X is true, what will this return? Still false. Yes. All right. It seems you do have the hang of that. So let's take a look at the answers here. Current slide. So these are the answers. All right. So you'll see with the AND statement or the AND operators, both have to be true. Both the left and the right hand side has to be true for it to return true. Where with the OR, only one side has to be true for it to return true. All right. And for the second question, write a program that takes the input from two players. Player 1 enters a word, then player 2 has to guess the word. Can I see some of your code examples? Did you struggle with this one? Did you get it right? Is there anybody who wants to show me? All right, let's take a look at Christian's. Christian. Okay, so you take the input, you print the line to hide the input. And if the word, if player's one word is equal to player 2's guess, then it will print true. Yes, all right, that's a good one. Thank you. I see Nabil is also typing. All right, so print. Oh, I see you made an object. Very interesting. All right. Okay, so player 1 input. So that's your variable name object. All right, print the line. It's like player 2. You get. Okay, yes, equal. I like this. You also created a variable to store your bool. That is a good one. Yes, all right. And then if you get the correct output, then your program is correct. So let's take a look at my solution. Let me just find it. So many tabs open now. All right. So here is my solution. So I create a variable that I call word. I take the input from player 1. So I do this all in one line, saying player 1, and then in a new line I print just a bunch of equal signs just to separate the words, the person who has to type in the word. And then I say enter a word, so then player 1 gets to enter his word. I print 80 new lines, so by using the new line function, and I time it by 80, multiply it by 80. And then I may create a second variable for the guess, and I get player 2's input in the same way that I got player 1's input. All right. Then I do a check. I do a comparison. I see if the word is equal to the guess. Okay, so it is very important for now. If player 1 types in, for example, the word banana, every letter has to be a lowercase letter or an uppercase letter, and player 2 has to guess every letter being also lowercase or uppercase. If player 1 types in banana and the B is uppercase, and player 2 types in banana and the B is lowercase, then this will return false because it is not exactly the same. All right. So a bit later we will do functions on strings, how to make the strings all uppercase or all lowercase, so then it doesn't matter. where the program will automatically switch everything, for example, to uppercase, both player one's word and player two's guess. So then it will not matter if it is uppercase or lowercase. All right. But for now, you just have to understand that if there is these two words have to be exactly the same. If there's an uppercase letter, for example, in the first word, but not in the second word, even though the word is the same, it will return false, because it checks every letter if it is exactly the same. All right, so we can start now with our decision making, our new lesson for today. Are there any questions about the homework? Let me just quickly check. Did you struggle getting the? Did you struggle with either one of the questions? Did you find it difficult? Was it easy? Anyone that wants to share, or any questions you have on the homework? Easy. All right. All right. I'm glad. I will make sure the next homework is a bit more difficult. I see Kurt was also typing. Let's give everyone a second. Right. I'll carry on with the lesson then for now. All right. So for today, we start with decision making. Okay. So I think it was Nabil who, Nabil who made the, he created a variable to store the bool result. All right. So on today, we can now use the bool results of the comparisons to make decisions in our programs. So, for example, instead of just just letting the program output true or false for checking the conditions, we can now make the code a bit more complex and split our program to give different results. Okay, so the if keyword will evaluate a condition and only run the associated code if the statement returns true. Okay, so what do I mean with that? So now we're going to be creating a new little program. All right, so I want you to open your PyCharm and write the following code with me. Okay, so we're going to create a variable called age. And we will cast it to an int. So we will, okay, let's break it up. We will first take the input from the user. And we will ask, let me just close this one, sorry. And we will ask the user to enter his age. All right. So we have to cast this to an int. Let me get, okay. So we want to get the age from the user, all right. But now we want to make a decision with his age. So we are going to be using the if keyword. Let me just make it a bit bigger. All right, so we'll be using the if keyword. So if age is larger than 40, we will print you are old. All right. And then I will create another print statement just showing that we are done with the program. All right. So let's run this. So if I enter the age 20, what do you expect the output to be? So now here you'll see at the bottom, I entered 20 for my age. Keen says done. Does everybody agree with Keen? Will our program display done, or will it display you are old? Does everybody agree? Error because there's nothing under 40. All right, interesting. Let's see what happens. Okay. I see Cortus also typing. Ishmael also says says that it will say done. All right, so let's run this. Stop and rerun. Okay. So I say 20. I enter that, and then our output is done. Okay. So what happens here? So let's take this line by line. So first line, here we create a variable called age. This, I believe, you should understand by now. Just getting the user's input, we cast that to an integer. Now, we use the if statement to do a check. So we compare the age that the user entered, just using the greater as. So we compare the age to 40. All right, very important. You'll see here is a tab. Here's 4 spaces between the left of the column and then the print statement. So Python uses a tab. Python uses this space so to create like a code block. So what that means is everything that we do in the any code that I type in here using this space will only execute if this condition returns true. So done is the first statement after the if code block, because there's no spaces. So what happens here is Python will see if this is true or false. If it returns true, then Python will run everything that is indented, everything that has these spaces. If it returns false, it will skip all of this and just execute the next line of code. All right, so this will return false. So we don't get an error. The only thing that happens is this returns false, so it ignores this block of code. So it ignores this line. So it returns the next line. Okay. Also note the colon symbol. So you'll see directly after, so after this if statement, you have to use the colon symbol to tell Python that we are now creating a code block. All right. So in this, everything from below this line will only run if the if statement, when the if statement returns true. All right. So indentation is very important in an if statement. That is important to remember. Let's open from this line. Okay. So as I said, Python uses the indentation to indicate a block of code. All right. So as I said, that's the block of code. Every indented line of code below the if statement will only execute if the statement returns true. So we got a in our output, it only displayed done because this returned false. So let's quickly run this program again from the start. I'll now enter the age 41, and as you can see here, it displayed you are old and then done. All right. So let's carry on. So if we do anything below 40, we just get the done and it skips the if block of code. So the indented code will not run. All right, so the result is only our last line of code. Okay, so as I said, also entering number above 40 will then return true for the if statement, and then our code will run. So all of the code will run. Okay, now we can take it a step further. We're going to add another keyword, the else. So let me update our code here. So let's say else. Oops. So let's say else, and then let's see what I did here. So then we're going to print you are young. Okay, so what's going to happen when I type 39? What will our output be now? If I enter the age 39, what is going to display? You can take a look here at the code. Young. Almost there. Young, done. All right. Yes. Thank you, Keen. So let's run this. So I say 39. You are young, done. Okay, so what happens now? The if statement, so we enter the age 39. The if statement checks if age is greater than or equal to 40. 39 is not, so it skips this code block, all right, and it moves to the next block. It then executes the next block, all right, seeing as the first one returned false. So let's go. Okay, so the else keyword will execute the associated block when the if statement returns false. So when this is false, only then will the else execute. The else keyword must be used with the if. You cannot use an else on its own. You can use the if statement on its own, but you cannot use the else on its own. And also note that we also add the colon symbol after the else keyword. And then the indentation is very important. If I were to indent this statement also, what will happen if I run the code now? So if I enter an age, let's see if I stop and rerun. If I enter the age, let's say I enter 50, what will be the output now? Take a look at this, and I enter the age 50. What will happen? What do you expect to happen? You are old. Will it print the done? Keen says no. Let's see, all right? It just says you are old. Yes, exactly. And when I take that space out and we run it again and I once again type in 50, then it says you are old and done. Right. That is because Python uses the indentation to indicate where this code, part of what this code is. All right. So if we do not use the space, then it is a new line of code that is independent from the if-else conditions. Okay. So as I said, by entering a value smaller than 40, like in our example, the else block will be executed and the if block will be skipped. Okay. So how do we test for more than two statements? Before I carry on, so now we can test for a first condition, and we can print something if or we can do something if the first condition is not true. Does anybody know how we can check for more? Let's say, for example, I want to see now if someone is above 60, above 40, or below 40. Right, Keen says elif. Let's see what Ishmael says. Elif, all right. Peter says leif, all right. That's and also elif. All right. So elif is the keyword we can test multiple expressions. Okay. It must be used between the if and the else. So elif is just short for else if. So you can say if greater than 40, else if greater than 60, or else. Then else checks for everything else. All right. So we can adjust our code now in the following way. So in your code block, let's check for the age of 30. Let us check for the age elif age greater than or equal to 60. Let's check for the age of 60. A senior. Else you are young. Let's say middle-aged. Okay. So what we will do now, if I type in the number, let's say 45, the age is now 45, what will our output be? Anyone that wants to take a chance, you can take a look at the code here. If I enter the age of 45, what will execute? What will our output be? Old, done. Right, so let's see. There is no more old print statements here. Okay, so if the age is the first one prints you are middle aged, the second one prints you are a senior, you are young, and done. Right. Middle aged. Yes. Okay. So if I run this, so if I enter this, we get the answer of you are middle aged and done. Okay, so what happens? First we get the input from the user. Now it checks if the age is greater than or equal to 30. So this is true. Okay, so what happens now? is the first statement will return true. So let's see what happens when we run 64. What do you expect our output to be? If we say 64. Senior done. You are middle-aged done. Okay, interesting. We got two conflicting answers. Let's see what happens. You are middle-aged done. Okay, does anybody know why? Because 64 is obviously bigger than the 60 year. So why does it not print you are a senior? Why does that not happen? Oh, yes, because 64 is more than 30. Yes, Keen, that is correct. Let's see, everyone else typing. Yes, so what happens is it executes the first correct if statement. The else if statement is only considered if the if statement is false. Yes. Yes, that is correct. Alright. It meets the first condition. Okay. That is right. So what happens? It meets so it only checks the first condition. If the first condition is true, then the rest of the conditions are ignored. So what we will have to do is we're going to have to start with the biggest one. So we're going to have to start with 60. Then we're going to only to check for 30. So we're going to swap these two statements. And then everything else. If the first one is false and the second one is false, then no matter what, the third one will execute. So let's try this again. So if I say 64 now, does anybody want to try? What will happen if I enter the age of 64? What will our result be? You can take a look at the code. Senior, done. You are a senior, done. Yes, exactly. If I enter the age of 5, what will our result then be? Young, done. You are young and done. Yeah, so what happens? It checks for the first block. This is false. 5 is not greater than 60. Else if age. Okay, so 5 is not greater than 30. So then the else statement executes. Okay, good. All right, so the else if keyword now tests for a third category. We can actually add else if statements as many as we want. All right, so note the colon symbol and the indentation. Once again, very important. So indentation and the symbol after your else if and else statement. Okay, so the program will now run through every expression until it gets to the first true expression. So it will only execute the first true expression and it will ignore the rest of the expressions, no matter if they are also true. As we just saw with the age of 60 being greater than 30. So then it only ran the first true expression and ignored the rest, even though that was not what we really wanted to do in the program. Okay, so we can place as many else if blocks between the if and else keyword as we need to. As soon as we reach a comparison that returns true, that block will execute and the remainder of the blocks will be ignored. Alright, the rest of the program will then be executed. So the rest of the program will then be everything that is not indented. Okay, so here's just a bit of a display. Just an example of how the statement works. So let's, for example, take water temperature. So we allow the user to enter water temperature. Now we check if the temperature is less than or equal to 0. So here you can see this triangle shape means the program is making a decision. So we start here at the top. It's taking the user input. It makes a decision. So it checks for the temperature and then compares it to 0. So is it larger or less than 0? So if it's so if temperature is less than 0, it returns true. So then the first line will execute. So then it will write frozen. If this is not true, we will go to this way and do a second check. So now it will check, is the temperature less than 12? So if it is less than 12, if this one is true, then the program will output cold. If it is false, the program will do another check, then seeing if temperature is less than 25. So if this is true, the program will write warm. If this is false, we can do another check, seeing if the temperature is less than 75. If this returns true, we get hot. If it's not, we do the final check. Our final check is seeing if the temperature is less than 100 degrees. So if this returns true, then we can write very hot. If this returns false, it is burning. So this first one will be an if statement. The second one will be an elif, 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 else, or another elif. And if this returns false, then we have the else that will write burning. So here will be, so everything that does not fall in the first few categories will then execute. All right, and then you can see here, following this line, then the program continues. Here, the line at the bottom, then the program will carry out the next line of code that is not indented. Okay, so now we move on to consecutive if statements. Okay, so now we're going to create a new file. So let us add a new, let's say, if statements. Okay, so we're first going to start by creating 3 variables: is true A, is true B, and is true C. So we're going to assign them values. We're going to assign them bools. So I'm going to assign them all the value of true. Okay, so here we have our three variables storing a bool value. And now we're going to create 3 if statements. Okay, so first we're going to check if is true A is true. So what we're going to do is true A, and then we will print A is true. We'll do the second one, if is true B. Then we will output B is true. And then our final one, if is true C, we will output C is true. Okay. So let's take a look at this if statement. So here I'm doing something else. We can write this in 2 ways. Is true. We can say it like this. But this is unnecessary. Okay, so we're doing a comparison here. This is another if statement. So we're storing a bool value in this variable. So is true A will store the bool of true. Okay, so we do not have to write, if we use a bool in an if statement, we do not have to write or do the comparison. We can just say if is true A, as we do here. So then what will happen, the program will check if this is true. So so because there is only a bool stored in this variable, it will return this variable's value. So in this if statement, the first if will return true. All right, does anybody know what to expect? What will happen if I run this program? So A, B, and C is true, and we have 3 if statements. So what do you expect the output to be of this program? All is true, I think. All right. Okay, so all is true, but what will our output be? What will print here at the bottom? Let's see what you think. You can take a look at the code. I will give you a minute. What do you expect to print? True. Will it only execute A is true? Will it only say B is true? C is true? Christian says it will print B is true, C is true, all. Okay, so all will be true, all will execute. So let's see. A is true, B is true, and C is true. All right. So why does that happen? We just said now previously that only the first one, you'll see here, we said only the first if statement, true if statement, will execute. So what's the difference now? I will get back to that. All right. So what happens now is using consecutive if statements. Every if, they are separate if statements. Yes, that is very well put. There's no elif or else statements. It is different statements. Yes. So what happens now is the program evaluates every condition separately. So we look at if this first one is true, then it executes this one if it returns true. Then because there's no else, we now have a separate statement. It looks at the second if. If is true, B returns true, then this one will also execute, and the same for C. If we change this to elif and else, we can remove the statement there, and we run this now, only A will return, only A will print, even though all of them are true. So by using just the if keywords, is true C, by using just the if keywords, these are seen as separate statements. So they will all be evaluated individually. Okay. Then, as I said earlier, just a hint to make your coding a bit, to type a bit faster and it's a bit easier to read. We can simplify a bool in an if statement by removing the comparison operator. So we simplified. So this is one way to also write it. We can check if is true A equals true. That is one way, but it takes a lot longer to write, and it's not good practice when writing code like this. So as I said, we rather write a shorthand just by putting in the bool value there. So it now automatically evaluates if this is true or false. It is not necessary to check it. All right. If we want to let a statement print when a bool is false, instead of saying if is true A equals false, we can do if not and then our bool variable. So then this will execute when the bool returns false. All right. So as I said, consecutive if statements. So unlike our else if statements, where the first true conditions code will execute and the remainder will be ignored, now using consecutive if statements individually, they are compared by the compiler separately from each other. So each if statement will be evaluated separately and the block will be executed if it returns true. So also, as we just saw, all three of these if statements executed, even though all three of them were true. Okay, so not just the first one. So now we can take a look at our homework. All right. So for question number 1, I want you to ask the user for a number and then check if that number is odd or even. So display a string also stating if the number is odd or even. All right. So here you're going to have to use a formula. You're going to have to check some of our previous work that we did. So I'm combining a few of our lessons here. All right. So the output. So if you enter the number 5, your output should be 5 is odd. And if you enter an even number, for example, here I entered 200, the output is 200 is even. All right. So that is our first question. Second question, I want you to create a program that generates a random number from 1 to 10. The user then has to guess that number. The program should tell the user if the guess was correct, too high or too low, and then display the correct number. All right. So are there any questions? Okay. So wait, before I get to the questions, I just want to say, to generate a random number, you will have to use a function in Python. I want you to Google. I want you to find a function. I'm not going to give you the hint here. I want you to look for something on your own to get the program to generate a random number. If you do struggle, you can ask Mr. VM on Wednesday, but try and find a way for the program to generate a number. All right. Now, are there any questions on the homework? Do you understand? Do you have any questions about the lesson? To import libraries. For the homework, I will allow it. Try and avoid it. See if you can do it without importing libraries. For the Olympiad, you will not be allowed to import libraries. All right. So if you can find other ways to do it, that will be the best practice. But for our homework, I will allow it, as long as you get the program running. What I'm looking for mostly in this homework is that you understand how to use the if and else if statements. Okay, so that's the major thing I'm looking for now. So if you have to import the library, that will be fine. But it will make your life easier if you know how to do it without the libraries. All right. So if there are no other questions or comments, then I will see you all next week for our next lesson. Right, and I'm excited to see how you did your second question especially. All right, and that's it from my side. I hope you have a very good weekend, and good luck. All right, goodbye everyone.